Hi, I'm Jessica Lombard, proud superintendent of Huntley Community School District 158. And we're back for another episode of Raider Roundtable, where today our discussion will center around technology and the utilization in the classroom. We all know that technology has changed the way that we view and interact with our world and has impacted every single industry. And schools, they're no different. In schools, we have a big responsibility in teaching our students how to navigate the digital world and gain the relevant skills necessary for their future careers. How we go about it is our topic of discussion today. Let me introduce Chief Technology Officer Mike Primus with Huntley School District 158. Welcome, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ms. Lombard. Thrilled to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So, Mike, we're talking all about technology, not necessarily diving into all of the components of curriculum and instruction and how they utilize technology, but the technology department that you oversee. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and our tech department?
I'd be thrilled to. So I live in Crystal Lake, married to a teacher, so I have a unique perspective, her perspective about technology. I have been in technology for 30 years, around 30 years. I don't want to give my age away. But 20 years as an engineer, the last 9 years in the corporate world as a services manager, and the last year and a half as the CTO of Huntley 158.
Our technology department is really behind the scenes of so many of our different departments and operations within the district. What does that look like, and how does the tech department really ensure that things are running smoothly within our district?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We are responsible for the educational, operational aspects of what the teachers need to educate our students. That's what it comes down to, right? Education of students.
Correct.
We are responsible for creating that infrastructure and providing the Chromebooks, laptops, and access, secure and safe access for that technology. I have mobile techs in every school, along with a network tech that covers an entire campus, a database team that controls or manages our student information system, and then the registration team also rolls up to me. Technology is an integral part of education nowadays, where Chromebooks are one-to-one, so clearly that is a huge component of education nowadays.
Some of the things that you do talked about, a couple of those positions that are more behind the scenes. And then we have some of our individuals in the department that are really forward facing in our schools and whatnot. So if you think about some of the technicians that are behind the scenes, the things that don't necessarily impact our classrooms per se on that day-to-day basis where the children or the parents might see that interaction, they're still doing some of the things because of programs, licenses, different pieces of the curriculum that are doing that. How does that impact our families, and what do you and your team do to ensure kind of that safety aspect of personal data on those kind of components?
Sure. So safety is a huge part of what we do, right? We utilize a couple of tools to protect the students. Content filtering, so we use Lightspeed is the application that we utilize. They help protect students from accessing websites they shouldn't access. We utilize another tool that we have licensed is called Gaggle that does content monitoring. So if a student types something that is alarming, whether it's in a Google Doc or Gmail, it will generate an alert, and that will send that alert to the Chief Safety and Security Officer, as well as some members of my team and the staff in the schools. So that safety component is a huge part of providing that education to the student and keeping them safe.
Absolutely, because I know as parents, even our youngest learners, right? We have our kindergartners, early childhood, they do use technology, but not those one-to-one devices.
Correct.
So as our parents and our families really ensuring or wanting to ensure, right, totally understand why our students need to be on these devices, but knowing that there is a team of people really monitoring, not for those privacy things, but to ensure the safety component happens day in and day out all day long. And if needed, parents would be contacted. When we think about some of our programs that our
Hmm.
students use, right? So there's different math platforms, if you will, literacy for all of our content areas. There are a variety of different pieces that kids need to be able to tap into. So with that, when we think about filtering, right? How come we have certain filters for our K2 and then for third grade on up, and those filters or safety precautions of what they can get on
Hmm.
vary a little bit. Do you want to talk about what that looks like so our families
Sure.
understand that? And then maybe what are some of the challenges of why it's really not that easy just to turn off one component?
Absolutely. So you hit the nail on the head, right? We have certain websites that we allow from grades 3 on up that we do not allow at K through 2, right? One big one that we allow in the high school would be social media. We allow social media because the students have gone through their digital citizenship. That's a
Hmm.
tough word to say. I just want to point that out. Throughout their entire career at Huntley. So not to say we're unleashing them, but in a certain way, we're allowing them access to prove that they have learned how to be safe and secure
Hmm.
and kind online. Um, Another one would be YouTube. We don't allow YouTube K through 2 using those filters and Lightspeed because above grade 2, 3 on up, educators use YouTube for
Hmm.
training. They use it for educational purposes. There are lots of videos out there that they can use to teach the students.
So there are things in the classroom that from time to time, since we do utilize this to be able to access information, our students that we are educating today probably, well, I know for me, they know way more about technology than I do. You're probably a little bit more up to date on those things, but it's
Yeah.
ever changing. And so we do have to continue teaching our students how to utilize that information in a safe way, how to utilize it and what is okay at school versus at home when they're on these devices. But also, we talked about how that technology is constantly changing. How does your team stay up to date on those things? And
Yeah.
how does that then help administrators and teachers know what to do?
So it's a constant battle, right? The students are always looking for ways around the filters. If Chromebooks were available when I was a student, I probably would be doing the same.
Sure.
I understand it. But Lightspeed uses categories, right? So web pages are categorized and then they're either allowed or disallowed based on those categories. The problem is there are how many websites out there? How
Right.
many I can go home and set up a new website. It's not going to have a category.
Right.
So by default, it's allowed until we can get a category on that. So what we work with Lightspeed is constantly updating their categories, and we also, in conjunction with the teacher, so that if the teacher or staff sees a student on a web page they shouldn't be on, they can let us know, and we can figure out, is this something that is acceptable at a
Mhm.
certain grade level, or it should be blocked, and then we can
Sure.
categorize it.
Right. So we make those decisions based on, first and foremost, the age of the student, the curriculum, and the
Correct.
reason why we need to be on
Right.
various sites for that instructional purpose. And we do that for the whole. And then if there are students or individuals that are struggling on a one-on-one basis, we handle those individualized, then is what I'm hearing you kind of say a little bit.
Correct. We work with the school, and if there is a student who is struggling, like you say, that maybe they need access restricted in a
Mhm.
certain situation, we can accommodate that access.
Like, I know last year was your first year, but I
Yes.
believe last year was one of the things as we were looking at just classroom management, behavior management,
Mhm.
all of those things with our CHAMPS program that we utilize in all of our grades
Mhm.
through the Learning and Innovation Department. There was a tie where then technology looked at how can we tie in some of those expectations of how a student uses technology and how they treat their device and all of those. And I believe last year we implemented so when a student logs on, a little pop up pops up that kind of reminds them about expectations,
Sure.
that digital
I
citizenship that you
told you it's
talked
tough to
about,
say.
and just expectations on our devices. And so that is a friendly reminder each time that a
Right.
student does. And I believe that that is still continuing on
It is.
as we go forward. Because again, we know that we need technology and it's extremely positive, but safety in is one of our top priorities. And so your team, thank you for all of the things that you do with that, because again, it's ever changing there.
Every single day, I get a call or an email about a student that accessed something that, how did the student access
Right.
this? So mature games are blocked. We allow games. So if it's not categorized correctly,
Sure,
we
they
have to
could
fix
feel,
that.
yeah.
Correct.
You also then do partner quite a bit with our learning and innovation department because, again, curriculum changes from
Yep.
time to time. And as those things come about, you're keeping up with, are our devices, as the infrastructure able to support those things? And then again, what about those licenses? And so that partnership really does then impact the classroom
Oh,
and what
absolutely.
happens there. One of the things you talked about a little bit earlier were some of your, well, I'll call it the help desk, right? You've got your mobile
Yep.
techs in each building, and they interact with the students if there's ever, concerns
hmm
with the device, if something's broken, a key, something like that happens. But something that happened at our high school and it came from our mobile tech and our help desk, if you will, and one of our staff members
Yep.
looking for opportunities to be able to assist students who might want to go into the
Right.
technology field. We implemented a newer version of our IT help desk at the high school, and that is extremely fascinating, right? We always think about ways that we can support students in maybe career
Right.
exploration, and that tie between the staff at the high school and the tech department in developing this new IT help desk is fascinating, and I just really appreciate those moments. Can you tell a little bit about
Sure.
how that came to be and what can our students experience?
Great question. So last year at district office was, as you said, trying to find ways to involve students in maybe a potential career down the road, right? And to be honest, I'm always looking for technology talent. So some of those kids that are trying to get around our filtering, I might be calling them someday down the road. And the decision was made, what can we do at a very low level to start introducing the students to technology a little bit, right? And the student in technology, which is what I call it, help desk, whatever we want to call it, what they're doing currently is working to harvest parts from Chromebooks. So we have to repair a lot of Chromebooks over the year. And what we do is we take non-working Chromebooks that may have parts that work, and they have learned how to strip those parts out. Um, so the two mobile techs at the high school, Matt Precor and Brad Lounger, they have been working with the students diligently to teach them how to harvest those parts and how to repair Chromebooks. I see maybe down the road, maybe there's an actual help desk where the students are the first level. Other students come in for help. Maybe these students can help them with password resets or some minor things in the Google Workspace.
But again, similarly to going in and maybe they want experience. We have the medical academy, the
hmm
engineering academy. We talk about some of those different things where they are doing mentorships with people
Right.
outside. Here it is right in our schools,
They don't
being
have to
able
leave
to
the school.
connect. Absolutely.
Right.
And so I think, again, that idea ground up from staff based on a need or a want from our students to be able to
hmm
get into the field. They took that idea and really blossomed that. And I love that you are also thinking maybe down the line in the future. And I know right now it's probably a little bit smaller. Do we have a handful of students who participate
It's a
in
handful of
this?
students because it
Yeah,
has to line up to their free periods
sure.
to when we have mobile techs in the tech room.
Right.
Um, if the mobile techs have to go help a teacher, I can't have the student in there by themselves.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so it's a handful.
And when we think about career
hmm
exploration, students are starting that earlier on. And so that tie, if we're able to bring that down to one or both of our middle schools in the future, how exciting is that to prepare students
Yeah,
to, hey, I'm interested in this. This might be a field I want to go into.
thinking back to when I was in sixth, seventh, eighth grade, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So the fact that they're thinking about it, I think is great.
That's wonderful. Again, thank you to our staff
Yep.
who've taken on that initiative and really turned this into reality. Technology is going to continue to change. It's going to continue to evolve. We know that from a learning and innovation aspect, we are constantly reviewing what should we be doing for our students?
Right.
And you've been in some of the, more recent conversations of how do we balance utilizing technology versus other hands-on, more traditional
Right.
experiences within that classroom. And it really needs to be a balance because technology is not going away, but as it has evolved, we need to step back a little bit and look at what experiences, what platforms, what grade levels, and the amount of time
Right.
students are on. How do you envision that moving forward with that partnership with the curriculum department?
I think that's a really great question because just when technology first started getting used in classrooms, and I know my wife, again, as a teacher, started
Sure.
talking about it. At first, you're like, "That's amazing, right? Let's get the screens in front of the kids. Let's get them learning, and because they're going to need this moving forward." But you start to see some of the negative aspects, some of the websites that you're able to reach, some of the anxiety
Mhm.
that constant screen access can cause, and I think we really need to take a close look at that. And I'm a big customer service guy, right? That's been my focus with the team. That's been my focus my whole career. Customers,
Mhm.
learning and innovation team, they're my customers. So I'm going to partner with them and figure out what do they want envision. I believe across the board that school districts are looking at this. They're wondering, do they need more screen time? Should we back away from that screen
Right.
time? For example, kindergarten. I know we provide Chromebooks to kindergartners starting, I believe, in October.
Sure.
Is that something that we're going to continue to do, or should we pull away from that and go back to more paper and pencil and probably crayons at that
Yeah.
point?
I think, and we see students for so many hours during the school day.
Mm-hmm.
And while we are concerned with what we do in the classroom and all of our learning environments
Right.
during that time, we also know that technology is more prevalent in homes, in jobs outside the school day. And so we do have to balance that as well. As we think about screen time, as we think about utilization in on these technology devices, what advice do you have for parents who are just a little bit concerned of you're teaching this in the schools of digital citizenship and how to navigate
Yep.
the type of sites and all of those things. But at home, sometimes as parents, we're not sure. Should they be on this? Should they not be on? What advice might you have for our families outside the school day?
Sure. And keep in mind, Lightspeed and Gaggle work whether they're on school campus or at home.
And
It's a
only if they're on our device, right?
on our device.
Correct.
Good, that's an excellent point. So it's a Chromebook extension. So
Sure.
it is on the device. So that will continue to function. But my advice would be aware of what your students are looking at online. Be present, make sure you see what they're looking at, because again, new web pages come up all the time, and if they're not categorized, they're going to be able to access them. And if you're not seeing what your student is doing, there could be an issue. I also recommend a lot of routers now at home. You can set time frames where
Mm.
devices no longer have internet access. There's also filtering that you can enable at times on those routers. I would highly recommend looking into that.
And not gonna tie into something today, but knowing some of those things, maybe as a district, we can all sit down to talk about how can we provide some of that information,
Sure.
knowing that it's going to constantly change within the next few months or weeks or things even daily, that we can put some of this information out on our website so that parents who might not know about those router restrictions and all those
Sure.
things that you talked about, that we can maybe point them in some direction where they can get some information if they wanted
Right.
to put parameters around what's happening at home as well. I know that you're not directly involved in our social media, SmartSocial that we partner with, but I'd like to just plug in, and we're going to make sure that we put some information out to our families that on our technology devices now, while not in the school setting, but that there are interactions with social media sites and things like that. And so I do want to put a plug out there on this podcast, and we'll get that information out to families that we do and have for the last couple years partnered with SmartSocial.
Yep.
And there are fantastic mini lessons, if you will, that parents can look into to find out more about how can they put some of those parameters and restrictions, on things at home as well.
And I took some notes on that, and there are 450 plus tools out there to help them, whether it's a Q&A with parents for safety and
Sure.
student online. It was a really cool, I wasn't even aware of it until the communications director mentioned it to me.
Yeah,
So,
and it's fascinating, and we have had such positive comments and feedback from families who have gotten that out there, got on and tried that. So we need to figure out how do we get that out there into the
Yeah.
hands of more parents, because we know we want to be able to arm them with the tools that they can be successful in the engagement of activities that are happening in
And
the
protect
school
their
district.
students.
Absolutely.
It's a free, I believe, free to the parents, right?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So thank you for that. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on this extremely important topic. I know it's always something that's at the back of everybody's mind. Technology is a really good thing, but there are some obstacles or challenges or worries that we do have to make sure that our students are safe regardless of the age. So your insight, your work that you do in this district is extremely appreciated. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Lombard. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
As always, we'd like to again thank the Huntley Area Public Library for the use of their incredible recording studio. But before signing off, here's a little Huntley 158 fun fact. Did you know that while technology is extremely prevalent and one-to-one with all of our students, we first began the very first one-to-one rollout at Martin Elementary with 357 fifth graders in 2012. Thanks again for tuning into Huntley 158's Raider Roundtable, where it's all students always. Until next time.